Episode 3, the Brazilian coral reef location, around 100 meters under the surface of the water, in what used to be the city of São Paulo, Brazil, 70 million years after the extinction of mankind. The subduction of the South American tectonic plate, plus the rise of the sea level, many regions of South America are now submerged under the sea. Almost a third of Brazil is now part of the Atlantic Ocean, and where the tropical rainforest used to grow, now we can find a mix of coral reef and seaweed plains, that extends for kilometers and serves as the perfect environment for several species of tropical fish. Most of them are actually descendants of anchovy and hake. Groups of bony fish had presented a quick burst in diversification after the mass extinction, and marine reptiles, that at least in these warm shallow waters have managed to retain more dominance than marine mammals or birds, which are more common in subtropical and polar regions. The first creature we encounter, however, is not a reptile nor a fish but a tiny mollusk. This is the angel snail, a common inhabitant of the shallow waters of all the tropical and subtropical coasts of North and South America, and a member of diverse clade of snails that can be found around all the Atlantic Ocean. The angel snail, however, might be the most successful and populous of them all, representing in some ecosystems around an 8% of the total biomass. The snail can reach a maximum length of 8 centimeters and a weight of between 20 and 30 grams, not the largest snail of the reef but yes, an interesting one. They have two anatomic features that set them apart from most other snails. First, they have two enlarged tentacles that they use in conjunction to extend a dense layer of mucus which they use to gather debris and microorganisms. After that, they will swallow the mucus and spit out the sand particles. They can use them to manipulate small objects, with little dexterity though, and as a sensory organ as their sight is fairly poor. The second one is their foot. It is very flexible and malleable, more than most other snails or slugs, and when they feel threatened they can extend it and use them as flippers for a quick and short burst of speed. They can create more than 30 centimeters of distance between them and their predator in less than 3 seconds, which might not seem like a lot, but when we take in consideration they get preyed upon almost exclusively by other species of sea snails, it becomes a total game changer. We follow the snail to a seaweed plain, and here we find another interesting little fella, hiding in the vegetation with an exceptional camouflage that allows this animal to blend with its surroundings so well that no predator or prey can notice its presence until they are right next to each other. The galapin turtle is a member of a clade known as the neomarine turtles, a diverse group of freshwater turtle descendants that adventured to live in the open sea, just 15 million years after the mass extinction. Nowadays several species can be found in all the oceans of the planet except for the polar regions. The galapin is one of the smallest sea turtle species alive, with an average length of just 30 centimeters. They spend most of their lives hiding in seaweed plains waiting for unsuspecting prey to swim near its mouth. Once close enough, the galapin will snap and eat it whole. They feed on several species of fish and small invertebrates like shrimps and polychaete worms. In rare occasions they have also been observed to eat carrion. They can spend more than 5 hours underwater waiting for prey, more than any other sea turtle. This is not only thanks to their extremely slow metabolism, but also because they are able to get oxygen from the water through the inside of its mouth and anus, which is heavily vascularized. Feeding on the seaweed the galapin uses to hide, we find another marine reptile. This one, however, is massive. Viperion is a marine iguana the size of a manatee, and is the largest herbivorous marine reptile alive. Viperion can be found in all the tropical waters around South and North America, both in the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. They prefer shallow waters but will live wherever they can find enough food. They need to eat at least 20 kilograms of vegetation each day to survive, so they are constantly feeding. They are generalist herbivores and will eat any sort of vegetation, including brown kelp, red algae and hundreds of species of seaweed. They have one of the largest and most complex digestive systems of any marine reptile, and this allows them to digest vegetation with great efficiency. This has made their clade very successful, and with the current climate warming up more and more, they are not only thriving but extending their range further and further. Another adaptation that set Viperion apart from other marine reptiles and that distinguished them from even their closest relatives is that they are ovoviviparous. This frees them from the need to go back to land to reproduce. They have a gestation period of around 4 months, After what they give birth to around 6 to 12 babies, each one around 20 centimeters in length, perfect replicas of their parents, born ready to feed and survive on their own. They will generally stay 1 or 2 weeks around their mother and then disperse to live on their own. We continue exploring and soon we find ourselves face to face with a shark, the Brazilian rock shark, with a total length of between 30 and 50 centimeters and more than 200 small teeth. This is the only fully herbivorous shark alive, and a specialist that only feeds in the small hair-like algae that grows in the surface of the rocks and corals of this reef. They could be considered a keystone species, as if it weren't for them the reef would soon be covered by algae to the point the whole ecosystem would collapse. They are most active during the day, and spend almost 10 hours each day feeding. They are not the most social animals, but they can be found in small groups occasionally. This behavior seems to be directly related with temperature, as not only the higher temperature create the perfect conditions for the growth of their favorite food, it also makes some of their predators more active, so a couple more vigilant eyes are a huge help. And speaking of the devil, we are now face to face with the most dangerous fish of the reef. The Brazilian banaqua, also known as the bloody banaqua, is the second largest bony fish currently alive in the planet, the largest specimens reaching a length between 3.5 and 4 meters, armed with 5 centimeters long razor-sharp teeth and able to swim at a speed of more than 50 kilometers per hour in short bursts. There is almost nothing in the reef that they can't take down. These fishes belong to a family known as Merluccidae and are direct descendants of the southern hake, a species of fish that during the Anthropocene, despite not being near as big as the bloody banaqua, were already voracious predators that hunted squids and smaller species of fish. After the mass extinction removed all marine mammals, almost half of sharks, including most of the largest species like the great white sharks and their close relatives, and almost all top-order predators, several species of hake quickly evolved to fill the empty niche, and despite the recent evolution of new species marine mammals and reptiles, hakes remain one of the most successful groups of predators in the sea. The name bloody banaqua is not related to their feeding habits, but to their mating ones. The males, around a third of the size of the females, are normally gray, but during their mating season they adopt a reddish coloration in their back and dorsal fin. They will swim in circles around the female in order to impress her. If this works, the female will lay around 100,000 eggs that the male will waste no time in fertilize them. The younglings grow up fast, but for the first few weeks most of them will fall prey of many mid-sized carnivores. Around 5% will reach sexual maturity. We don't need to wait too much before encountering another large predator. This is the gurgura, one of the most widespread species of marine crocodile currently alive. They can be found all the way from the coasts of Brazil to the African Internal Sea, and as north as Spain and Mexico. There are around 4 subspecies, with minimal notorious physical differences. The gurgura is relatively small compared to most of their modern cousins, with females averaging 2.5 meters in length, and males sometimes reaching the 3 meters, with a weight of between 60 and 100 kilograms. The largest living marine crocodiles can be 5 times heavier. Despite this, the gurgura still is a dangerous predator. They feed mostly on fish and cephalopods, but whenever they have the opportunity they will also target small sharks and juvenile marine iguanas. They live most of their lives in the open sea. They sleep and mate while swimming, but have to return to land to lay their eggs. Every year the beaches of the Atlantic get filled with thousands of female gurugas that, just like the ancient chelonids used to, will use their powerful fins to slowly crawl on land and dig a small hole where to lay their eggs. Every female will lay between 10 and 20 small eggs around the size of a chicken's egg, and will return to the sea for 2 months, after what they will come back. These reptiles have a very good memory, and every mother remembers the exact location where they lay their eggs. They arrive to the beach 2 or 3 days before the eggs hatch and wait motionless without eating or drinking, just to be there to carry their young to the ocean whenever they are born. All this effort and planning is meant to prevent their young get eaten by one of the hundreds of seabirds that populate this region. Not only neo seagulls and sea crows crowd the beaches of Brazil, but also a giant of the skies. This is the largest flying bird that has ever ruled over the skies. The Atlantic garnal, not closely related to any Anthropocene seabird, this creature descends from freshwater-dwelling piscivorous and seriform birds that started to adventure to the sea when eastern South America started sinking. They are as tall as a man, and the largest specimens can weigh more than 200 pounds, with a wingspan of around 9 meters. They depend on sea stacks and warm air currents to take flight, and once in the air they barely even flap their wings. They catch their food by soaring near the surface of the water and using their rake-like bill to scoop any fish that's swimming near the surface. They can eat more than 10 kilograms of fish in one day. It's not rare that they complement their diet eating other smaller seabird, especially unwarty chicks or juveniles that are still learning how to fly. During mating season they form huge breeding colonies. The largest ever registered was composed by more than 100,000 individuals. Every mating pair will raise one single chick. If for some reason the chick dies, the female will become extremely aggressive towards the male and sometimes try to steal another chick, what usually ends up in even more chicks dying.